Hello and welcome to the Sacral Circle, where we are healing sexual trauma collectively and lovingly. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and I'll be interviewing individuals from all walks of life who have faced sexual trauma or abuse and triumphed over their adversity. On every episode, a guest will deliver inspirational support, words of comfort, and empowering healing advice. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast, The Sacral Circle. Just search Sacred Stories on iTunes. I want to thank our listeners for joining us today on The Sacral Circle, the self-love haven where we leave judgment at the door. And today I am grateful to have one of my little spirit sisters, Amanda Yanez, here with me.
Just kind of coasting in on my little fairy wings.
She is a creative director. She's a visionary, a musician, a singer, songwriter, poet, artist in a lot of different ways. You are also a mother, a Montessori teacher. You are one of those really cool chicks that worked her way up through the Girl Scouts of America. And you are a legacy scout. Also a scout leader because she has 2 children. She has a son and a daughter. I see the kind of mother she is. I respect her in that she's doing her best to mindfully raise her children. And she's endured a lot of different types of abuse, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and sexual. And so you being a mother and having gone through and you continue to go through your healing journey, you, instead of becoming the things that your parents couldn't be to you, right, or that were to you, you started to, somehow you had the emotional intelligence to decipher what was healthy and how to raise children who are very strong and balanced and that could speak and use their voice.
Yeah, a little too much sometimes.
So I'm just so happy that you're finally on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm so excited to talk about all this stuff.
We share a lot of very deep personal stuff. We met a little over a year ago, maybe, through my brother, who is a musician.
Right.
And she's also really tiny and short, and I am too.
So tiny. We're the cutest things together. Everyone always mistakes us for like sisters.
Yes.
We literally look the same. We both have bangs.
We both have bangs, exactly. And we discovered that we had a lot of similarities in just things that we've had to endure as women, as human beings. And I'm older than her, so it's almost like I'm kind of like a big sister and she's like a little sister for me when it comes to doing our best to navigate through this territory as we shed old skins and rewire and take back our autonomy. So I would love for you to, just tell us a little bit about what it was like being Amanda as a little girl.
Well, Amanda as a little girl is pretty much like who I am now, but it was a cycle to get, I'm sure, to who I was then, to who I am now. But I always loved being outside, and I would always talk to trees. I'd make friends with plants. My dad was very much in tune with native culture and was determined to have me grow up on it. And it was small things here and there, like learning how to skin a deer or how to bead on moccasins to singing prayers to me. It was a really cool, nurturing experience. And the majority of the time I was obedient, and I loved to listen to stories. That was my favorite thing to do. My mom would take us to the library, and we would just sit in the library for hours. And then we'd get in the car, we'd put on classical music. She'd say, "What does it sound like to you? What kind of pictures appear in your mind?"
Yeah.
And so she really gave my brother and I a fighting chance to use our imagination to like create these characters that would lead us to our futures.
Beautiful.
I often thought of myself as a teacher because I love to teach my baby dolls stuff.
Yeah.
And I would teach them things like how to whistle with a piece of grass. And also I think one of the other things that I really thank my parents for is giving emotions to animals for me. Like from a very young age, I wanted to collect all living beings because it was like my mom would be getting ready to step on a snail and be like, no, he's going home from the grocery store. What's the matter with you? Oh my God. You know, like I was cute. Yeah. And so I grew like this really warm heart, even for like the teddy bears that fell off the bed during the night. I would pick them up and hug them and say, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So I don't know if it was like a deep empathy feeling or if it was like regrets that I did something bad to them and they wouldn't like me anymore, so I had to like over comfort them.
Oh yeah. So it could be a little bit of both.
Yeah. So that being said, I think I was also a very anxious child. Curious
but anxious.
Yeah.
And how did anxiousness show up for you, do you feel?
I would just throw up and pass out.
Wow.
It just like especially when I first went to public school, and I'd have to go into the cafeteria to eat. One, I would feel like everyone is looking at me. It's just a noise, a cloud of wah, 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 wah. Not even like sound, not even words, just wah, wah, wah. Yeah. And it would like pulse more and more, and I would just throw up and pass out. And so like, I guess at that point, I wasn't ready to accept loud noises. I don't know if I was overstimulated or if that was my type of like brain pattern to be overstimulated by it, but a lot of my anxiousness came from like, oh, my parents gonna get mad at me if I throw up. Oh, my parents can be mad at me if I say I'm not doing okay. Right. Let me just make myself eat because I'm scared they're gonna ask me questions, you know? Right. And so it was, I think that bred a type of like anxious empathy and be like, is she okay? Oh my God, maybe I should say something. Maybe let me correct the way that I thought or the way that I responded, you know? So it would make me go internal step. How can I make it better? How can I make that better? How can I make that better? And then I would just be like, you know, really the point of it is I fucked up and I'm really sorry about it. If there's anything I can do to help you trust me again, let me try.
Right.
You know?
And I can really relate to you in that way. And I didn't know how my trauma had created anxious tendencies that played out in that people pleasing or let me correct, what can I do, like, you know, was always just let me restore whatever this disconnect I have with you right now, and then falling into a pattern of like overcompensating and then attracting people that were going to take advantage of our kindness and our sort of heart-centeredness. And so you've been on a really interesting journey of uncovering or exploring, investigating. Yes. It's almost like an archaeologist of yourself.
Yeah, that's and sometimes, cool you say that.
Right, because the tomb. Yeah, you're like Indiana Jones, and you're not afraid to explore, even though you're going to stumble across pieces of self that were unexpected. So what has that been like for you, recognizing how you were impacted mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually by whatever took place as a child?
I would say that, how these things affected like my now space.
Yeah.
Maybe like,
that's a good way to put it.
Like, how did the, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how did the past and the imprints of the past that had shaped your identity and belief structures and or how you were perceiving the world, at some point you realized that was happening to you.
I can say the overall theme of all of the problems that I encountered or endured revolved around some sort of guilt.
Okay.
So it wasn't until I learned how to not feel guilty for things that there was a turning point and me being able to accept what happened. And it's not always my fault. I don't always have to take the blame, you know? And I can say like, I messed up too. Yes. And I'll apologize for that. But you went against moral code. Like, I've learned that I can say, yeah, I fucked up, but let's look at what you did, you know? And then we'll talk about it and maybe we can work through it and maybe we can be friends afterwards, but we've got to address this. It was like a reaction state. And the same goes for me too. You know, like, I think it's when you're overcompensating to like establish some sort of like boundary line where you don't feel guilty, kind of reverse that on everyone else and be like, I'm not going to be guilty at all. And then you're just like, fuck, now I feel guilty about saying that I'm not guilty.
Yeah.
Learn to stop doing that.
Well, what's beautiful, I know, and that's part of the beauty in where you are right now on your walk, and you taking ownership totally of what does Amanda want, and what does she need to feel safe.
What does Amanda contribute?
Yes, what does she contribute? Yeah,
yes.
What's that giving and it's receiving and giving, because we get real comfortable giving, and then we have
You're right, yeah.
Right? We do.
And then you're like, when is the last time that you did something for me?
Right. It's
when was the last time that I felt valued to you?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not so much that it's like tit for tat, tit for tat. It's just sometimes we pour into people that give very little. And it's taken me a unhealthy relationship to see how and why that was being played out for me, in terms of going to, like what you were saying, the guilt. Or for me, it's like, oh, I'm not enough, or being a burden, you know, or playing out the shame that was tied to my sex trauma, you know, and all that stuff. So,
shame's a big one too, I guess. Or also, I think feeling stupid. That's like a big one.
Big one for me. It really is this point of like if somebody's like not acknowledging my intelligence in some way, or not even that. It's not so much about acknowledge my intelligence, because that doesn't even sound right. It's just like they make you feel like you're the stupid one.
Yeah.
For whatever it is that you're desiring, but what you're desiring is actually really healthy.
Yeah.
But because they're jacked up, they'll make it seem like you're being irrational. What you're needing is too much. So I have had that syndrome of too much. You're too much of this. You're too much of that.
Yeah, that's always so weird. Whenever like, well, we can't go down that rabbit hole because that'll be like a forever talk. But
Yeah, for sure. But it's all these little ways that we don't realize are impacting us subconsciously from these moments that we have.
Yeah.
This episode of The Sacral Circle is brought to you by Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. Like and follow at Rise Above TV to be a part of the mindfulness movement. Now back to our interview with Amanda Yanez. You had mentioned not too long ago you had a brain scan.
Yeah.
You started to delve deeper into like, well, what's really going on? And as a kid, they didn't know what was up with you,
right?
Because you were such an abstract, smart, intelligent, sensitive little being.
They had a really hard time. I mean, I didn't really care. I mean, I wanted to learn so bad, but I just like wasn't cut out to process things through just auditory input, you know. And like reading was difficult because I couldn't stay focused, or because it would take me like 10 minutes to read a page.
Right.
You know, and the page was like 5 sentences.
Right.
Because I guess like my cognitive abilities hadn't developed yet.
Right.
But
you had other things probably that were totally developed.
I had heightened memory. Like I can draw anything that I could see, and I can recall anything and draw it, you know. And
is that like photographic memory? Is that what that
yeah,
is?
it's like photographic memory. And then I also loved theater. And if I wanted to say how I felt, it was always easier for me to be like, listen up, you see? This is how I'm feeling, you see? You know, like kind of just act it out. It was easier because I could take on a different character and figure out what was going on with that character. It was like projecting onto an imaginary thing and being that person in another person's shoes.
Yeah.
You know, and so like, I think that was one of the biggest things that I had so much I wanted to say and how much I wanted to get across, but all of these avenues of creativity that would have allowed me to do it freely was not accepted. You know, like it was just like, you don't belong in GT, you're not in normal classes, but you're not in special ed because you're totally sociable and stuff. Yeah. But like, I really think the majority of like growing up was a manic state of just trying to hold on to what I could do and entertain myself I'm trying to also kill myself. Like, just like, well, I guess I would hope sometimes that I would go out in a car wreck on my way to school and just be like, I can't fucking wait for this to be done. And like, I hope I go out with like a comedic ending, like I was not afraid about it.
Yeah. Because you are into music and writing, and because you were so creative and everything, do you feel that was inadvertently it was an outlet for your healing?
I feel like my artistry was a really good indication of what I was feeling. Yeah. However, when I would get like severely depressed, it was like my brain would forget how to draw. And I like would have these moments of like, am I even an artist? I can't get anything right. Like I give up, whatever.
Oh, gotcha. So it was like the pendulum went to the other side.
Yeah. So it's either like super mega high creativity or mega low energy with all of that and stuff. But I've just now kind of learned, after going through years of teaching children their emotions and teaching them the weather cycles and just the normal foundational blocks of life and stuff, things that were like it, I've gotten to have a more like simple view of things. And it's like, if I'm going to teach my kids, like, if you're not going to have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I better lead by example. Or else, like, what am I doing?
That's true.
Just being another human that they can't trust, because it's like, do as I say and not as I do. And there's another guilt thing there. Is that, like, I feel like if I'm responsible for kids, then I need to be responsible for kids at all times. And, like, in front of my kids, at Girl Scouts.
Yeah. There's, like, a certain persona and
it's like a constant Miss Frizzle.
Right. What were the different things you used to help you through your healing? So you had your arts. You realized, you had mentioned earlier that when you were teaching, that all the crafts and things that you were doing with them was healing. When I'm going like this, because I'm moving my hands in a way like you're squishing Play-Doh.
That was one of my favorite things to do.
That's the best.
Yeah, it was like...
when you're a little stressed, like, how we have stress balls?
Yeah,
but Play-Doh.
Nice. Super manipulative, and you can rip it, and it smells like childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like a major sensory therapy for me. And, like, I would look forward to... I would create the children's curriculum with... like, alongside my mental health of what I would need throughout the day. So I could be the best teacher that I could be. Like, I know in the mornings, I'm super high energy. And so I'd have to plan it out with, like, a medium energy, then low, then high energy, then medium, then low, then high, then nap time. Because that would be our last high. And that helped me regulate my emotional schedule, my predictability, doing just simple puzzles, for pre-K. But it was still fun to be like, this is a triangle. It has 3 sides. It's the strongest shape in the universe.
Shape.
Yeah.
That's why all the temples are made like that.
Yeah. And then you can play with those little manipulators and make a whole bunch of, like, tesseract looking things. Yeah. And so, like, it was just a huge breakthrough to have this moment, to be around little minds who didn't care about anything except for what they were about to create.
In that moment.
Yeah.
Because they're so in the now.
They don't know anything else other than the now.
They don't. And they're so forgiving until they start to develop, it's like, I guess 8, 9, 10, they start to kind of disconnect from just this total openness and pureness and the naive. It's like this naiveness that's so sweet and pure. But in a world like this, that's where you have to find your balance.
Yeah.
And how have you managed to find your balance of taking back autonomy and sovereignty of your body, your sexuality, your femininity, balancing that with your masculinity?
That's an intense section of life that I'm enduring right now. I have always been... I'm wearing a dress, I'm wearing a skirt and a long sleeve nice shirt right now, and I look pretty girly, but for the most part, the majority of my life, I always just got my brother's hand-me-downs. Yeah. And I never really thought of myself as, like, a pretty person. I had, like, big curly hair and big buck teeth and glasses, and I was just, like, real dorky. And, I don't know, I just got made fun of all the time. Never really cared what I wore. My dad took me to Goodwill, and I just didn't really care about all that. And this year, when I was kind of coming back into that phase of just wearing whatever I had wanted and stopped caring about it, I kind of figured to myself that, like, I'm genderless. So, like, my expectation of being with a man disappeared. My expectation of being with a woman disappeared. Because I was like, if I'm genderless, that's pretty neat. Like, I could morph into anything I want to be. Whatever is around me and arouses me, cool. That's neat. And not whatever, like, object or anything, but people.
Right.
And so it was, that helped me deal with some sexual trauma that I endured, that I had a choice now. And the choice was not made by someone else. It was my intuitive choice. When I released myself from the expectation of what I needed to look like, how I needed to sound like, what my career needed to be, like, I broke out of the mold of having to be a stay-at-home mom with an abusive husband.
Yes.
And I made something of myself, and now I'm creating a community that will pass on to my kids, like a legacy of love that will pass to the kids.
I love it. A legacy of love.
And whoever I touch, so, like, when I gained control of my physical and sexual being and who I allowed into me or who I went into, like, however it all happened, you know, that I'm doing it with the intention of, like, healing whatever you're nervous about or whatever you're afraid about, or if you just need an embrace,
Yes.
That's really what
you're
that's
like
turned into.
You're reestablishing intimacy.
And connectivity. But, like, one of the things that I feel like people are so, like, disconnected with is just platonic intimacy. And one of my best friends right now, like, he and I, we'll hang out on the couch, fall asleep together, and it doesn't mean anything. We're just, like, comfortable little rats in a nest.
Right. But it's that touch, the oxytocin and
and feeling like someone is there to be. I feel like one of the things that I like about it most is that someone is there to find me if I die. And that's, like, a cool feeling, to be tribal. And someone would recognize you if you disappeared. Someone would wake up and be like, "Where's Amanda?"
Right.
That feeling of, like, "Oh, I'm okay. Don't worry about it. It's nice that you care about me."
Right.
We have our parents that do that with us all the time, and then we go into the adult world, like, who the fuck is going to do this now? I don't know. And then you just learn that, like, all of your fuck buddies are not your friends, and then you're just like, damn it, I don't know how to operate. I just want someone to come over here and hug me, kiss me on my forehead goodnight, and be here in the morning. That's nice to have.
And that's another thing. I think you're starting to see and know what is your love map. What does your mind, your body, your heart, your spirit need to feel safe in partnership, building, like, that type of respect with the masculine. And I'm sure that's been a journey for you too, because, like you said, you have 2 children from your ex, and I know that was an extremely abusive relationship. And it's interesting because when you've shared with me privately just more of the details of it, is that you would never know that you've been through so much. That's why I love this show so much, because you talk to somebody and then you see them one way and you're like, you've been through what? What happened to you? And how long, how many years were you with this individual?
Well, I guess we were friends for, like, let's see, I guess I met him when he was 15.
And you were how?
And I was 16.
Okay.
We were just, like, in and out of a friendship, and then we kind of, like, reunited when I was 20. Fell madly in love with each other over a bag of shrooms, and it was really cool at the time. Like, he was a really cool person. We had the kids, and we wanted the kids. We were like, this. We were both, like, really spiritual beings. He kind of, like, had this feeling of being able to kind of, like, click electricity sometimes when he would meditate, and I was just, like, so about that.
Wow. So you were, like, mesmerized by him.
And then we had the kids, and kind of things went south. And, I don't want to, like, he's a good person now. I think at the time, he was a young kid, not really ready to take on fatherhood. And his dad was not the best dad, so he didn't have the best example. My dad was out of the picture because I was pregnant at 20. We weren't married or anything, And so...
And was there discord there because of it, or...
I think there was just discord all around.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, it was a weird situation.
Yeah.
And so that happened, and, Lily came along after we thought that we could, fix things, and he just, snapped one day. His mental health just completely snapped. And a lot of people can't handle the first year of parenthood that easily. And we had 2 kids born 20 months apart.
Right.
So he was just fried. And I can't blame him without having the right tools for something being responsible for another being is hard. Yeah. And he's I'm totally past it now, I think.
That's great. Because y'all have the type of connection or relationship you have because you do still... share custody of the children.
We don't really talk too much. We have simple hello.
That's it, and it's cordial.
Yeah, it's cordial.
And you only talk when it's
part.
Right.
But I talk mostly to his wife.
Oh, okay.
He's remarried, and they're gonna have another baby, so they have 2 together. He'll have 4 all around, and I think this is why he's growing as a dad, because he's kind of just oh shit.
Yeah.
But his wife and I are great co-parents.
That's good.
We talk about the kids, send pictures if the kids are doing events with each other.
Yeah.
And we just keep it very simple. And I call her mom and dad when I say, kids, you're going to go get picked up by your mom and dad, making it a healing space. Because I feel like saying stepmom is a bad thing. So making them a pair, I think, gave more trust to the kids that was a strong foundation again.
Yeah. It says really a lot. Taking the higher road, it's not always an easy thing to do.
I just looked at it from a child's perspective.
Yeah, what's best for the child, but not everybody does that. That's the higher road.
Mm-hmm. I just thought to myself, I am their mother. I birthed them, and I'm a great human being. They would never forget me. Yeah. If they want to have another mom, that's more love for them.
Exactly.
It's another
not
person.
Scarcity. It's abundance attitude.
And it's and she cares about them as much as I do. Those are her children too. She married Josh and took on the kids as her own. So I'm gonna respect her either way.
Yeah, because that's not many people are willing to do that.
That's hard to do. Mm-hmm. And to do it kindly.
That's what I was going to say, because some will do it, but they won't do it kindly.
Yeah.
And, and that can create a lot of more abuse and trauma that here you are going out of your way to make sure your kids are safe and protected or know how to, stand up for themselves and stand up for others. And then you want to know that they're safe in that other home. Yeah. So it's so beautiful that you're blessed in that way, that your children are safe when they're with you and when they're with their dad. What part of music and writing and all of that play into where you are in your journey now? Because wow, you've come a long way. It seems in a short period of time. Yeah,
I had a moment of bursting when I left I don't know if it's toxic, but it was a very caretaking type of relationship.
Okay.
That's when I started exponentially booming this year. But music and art and writing and all that, I guess it started with just theater and singing all the Disney movies and stuff. And that helped me form my storytelling because it was that's when I learned that a song has a beginning, a middle, and end, just like a movie. And so if I wanted to write about it, then I would have to find the characters, I would have to write the middle, the challenging, the accomplishments and stuff. And that helped me turn my writing into small skits that would turn into lengthy poems and then into small stories, all the way back down to grind it all the way to a small couple of verses for music again. And so I got to see all of my creations in a multi-layer of creative expression, and it changed every single time. And then at the end I would just be like, I'm just kidding, the song is about a sponge. Tip your bartenders. But you can have so much detail to
it's crazy how much intricacy and how much simplicity can be in something sometimes especially when you have the eye to be able to see it as such, and so you were able to really run with it in a way that some people have to take classes to learn how to do that, and it was just coming naturally to you.
It was very fractal thinking. I feel that's what it is. And I used to just hone in on an object like this, and I would just be this leaf is green. The leaf is green is juicy.
Yeah.
Juicy is how I'm feeling.
Right.
I'm feeling really hungry. You know, like, so I would just stare at this plant for a long time and write a whole thing with a recorder on. I swear, like, I'm sure some people were just like, she belongs in a mental home. What's happening? You know, because I'm just like, blah, 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 looking at this plant, you know, but that's what really, it gives you a brighter look at everything.
There's so many different things that you touched on that have been healing for you. What piece of advice would you like to leave those who maybe haven't spoken to anyone about anything that's ever happened to them that they've had to face that was for them extremely traumatizing? What would be something that you would like to share?
I think what helped me most is journaling. And I would put a reminder on my phone because, again, guilt for not following through a commitment. I would put a reminder on a phone for me to just write even just a sentence, like, I don't feel like writing today. August 24th, I don't feel like writing today. August 25th, still don't feel like writing today.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then as you go through the journals, I like to look back because I draw, like, a lot of comics and just, like, random stories will just happen in between the paragraphs and stuff. So I like to go back and look at it, and I can start developing. I see that I'm developing patterns. So I'll be highly creative, fill up 30 pages of just nothing but like illustrations and words and poems and stuff. Yeah. And then the next like 6 weeks, it'll just be like, I have nothing to say. I fell into a pit. I'm not feeling this bright today, you know? So you can start like kind of tracking your cycles if you don't feel comfortable talking to people, and just having like self-conversation, looking at yourself in the mirror and like taking a really close look at all of your pores, and if your eye cocks to the left a little bit, you know, like look at all of these things, and then just, I don't know, you start to realize what's real, what you can change. If you want to feel better, get up a little earlier, go for a run, and eat a celery stick or something, you know? Yeah. You have the choice. Yeah. You have the power to, like, reflect. And you also, when you're ready, have an entire world who is ready to accept your mental illness. So it's totally okay to talk about. Yeah. You know, it's like a thing these days. It's like, you know what, my therapist told me, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hilarious. My therapist told me the same thing. And we're just like, haha, same energy. You want to kill yourself later tonight with me? Haha, just kidding. Exactly. It gives us a platform to be like, yeah, you're fucked up too. Awesome. Let's joke about it. Play some Super Mario. Cry. It's okay now. It's okay to talk about it. It's a freeing conversation, just like comedy. Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, and journal.
Journaling, and I think
for sure journal,
having a childlike spirit and being able to infuse lightheartedness into some, I kind of call it like bringing levity to brevity. Ooh, yeah, that was a good one. When I got that download, I was like, ooh, that's a.
I wish you would just have a wall of your sayings printed out in vinyl, just line by line by line.
I've been jotting them down and stuff, so you have a lot of golden nuggets too. And they come out in your work and in your poetry, and you know, or in our conversations. And I know that was another big thing for you is peers, other people that have also been through what you've been through, and just sitting down and having real, genuine, authentic conversations. Yeah. And that was really the whole point of this podcast. And I know you have a project called Sup SA that you created. It's a podcast, one of the many things that you do. Anything you want to share about that? And again, thank you for being with us, my friend.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for having me. And yes, Sup SA is a brand new podcast that centers around the stories of creative people in the city. I never had a whole bunch of great examples to look to. I always found a bunch of musicians who were into drugs and drinking and putting off their potential for just whatever they could get for the night. And so finally, after living that life for a long time, 17 years as a musician in San Antonio, I decided to like take a step back and think about what I wanted in a music scene, because I was just like, I'm tired of seeing the same shit all the time. I'm tired of people like not giving everyone the credit that they need. You know, all of these people are expressing themselves in the coolest way, and I want to know about it. I don't care if you guys want to know about it, but I want to know about it. Mm-hmm. So I brought together, a few people one night and just went about them like a library. And I was like, I've got to open up my phone and I've got to record this. And it turns out that like all of the people that I had talked to either shared a story of like redemption through like coming out of drugs, using music, or using brotherhood, and finding out that they were susceptible to scams because they didn't do their research beforehand. Right. All of these things that can be easily avoided had someone taught that to us. Right. And so, the podcast that I bring to you guys is there as wisdom for the younger generations and for people who are struggling with trying to figure out what they're doing right now as a creative person. More than likely, if you're a creative human, it's probably hard to handle like the whole world right now, because it takes like a high frequency of creativity and imagination to like create art crafts. Can't do it when people are like getting shot left and right and all of that, Yeah. So
I admire that, and you creating that platform and giving them the space, to share this valuable information.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's all about right now is how can we extend a hand to others? How can we cooperate and collaborate to create community, whether it's through podcasts, videos, community events, and things like this. And I think we're both helping one another in supporting our endeavors. And I'm excited to have this new season and grateful that you were like my first guest. You're officially a part of the Sacral Circle sisterhood / brotherhood, because I have men on my show too.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to thank our beautiful listeners for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Sacred Stories podcast on iTunes, where you'll find other impactful, inspiring shows. Be sure to connect with me via our social media pages. Just search at the Sacral Circle. Your shares and likes are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. As we say goodbye, always remember to know your worth and continue to love and value yourself wholeheartedly. Peace be with you.